Hello, everyone. Candace-Marie Mitcham here from Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, Silverhawk Realty, East Idaho. And today we're going to talk with Mold Pro. So mold, is it the symptom or is it the problem? Stay tuned. Mike Anglesey, thank you so much for gifting us some of your time today.
Oh, you're welcome. My pleasure.
So Mike Anglesey is the owner and proprietor and servicer and expert of all things mold. So tell us, we have winter coming, we have the wet weather coming. What are the things that we need to be mindful of to prevent mold? And what should we look for in case we think maybe we haven't been paying attention?
You know, it's kind of a funny time of year because we've got this weird thaw that's happening right now, and spring is going to come. And so water gets into a lot of places that it shouldn't be. The biggest thing is awareness and paying attention to where water sources are in your home. You know, we've got bathrooms and showers and plumbing. We've got cold storage rooms, a place where gutters might be failing. So those types of things are what we look for and try and pay attention to this time of year, because a lot of times we don't. You know? Like a cold storage room is a great example. We don't go in those that often. And if you're not paying attention, those can condensate. It doesn't necessarily have to have a leak, but those can condensate. And a lot of times we have cardboard boxes in there and things that are just candy for mold. So really it's an awareness, it's paying attention. My tagline is always moisture is a problem and mold is a symptom. And so we have to identify those potential moisture sources and keep an eye on those to make sure we don't have bigger problems.
Well, and I'll tell you a real life example. You know, it was a few weeks ago and I happened to fall asleep on the couch in my basement watching Netflix, right? We've all done that. And I wake up and I hear some water and I'm like, is that just water coming down the pipe? Somebody flushed a toilet, something like that. That drip, drip, drip was in fact coming from someplace that it shouldn't have been coming from. But had I have not been downstairs,
you
wouldn't have heard it. So exactly to your point about those areas that we don't normally frequent in our home.
Right. And identifying them quickly too. Because, you know, water's going to do damage. But if we identify it quickly, then we can resolve those issues before they come. They're really expensive.
So are there any things that besides, you know, taking a look around your home on a regular basis, right? And looking at those spots that you identified, are there any other things that you would recommend to a homeowner? Like this time of year, why don't you go and do a maintenance plan, including A, B, and C?
One thing that is, you know, to your industry as realtors, nobody goes in their attics or crawl spaces. And they don't know they have a problem until they go to get it inspected. And so doing that, you know, every 6 months or something, poking your head in, because roofs leak, they wear out. And crawl spaces are notoriously moist. And so they can generate and facilitate mold growth, and nobody knows about it until it's an expensive problem.
And then we call you.
And then we call me.
So let's talk a little bit about, we have decided to take your advice. We've found an area in the home. We're like, uh-oh, we found some moisture, and either we see mold or we identify that it's moist, right? Then what do we do when we call you, or what do you come in and do when we call you?
So one thing that I want to share is that I do free visual inspections. And so if anybody out there has suspects that there might be an issue, call me and I'll come out and look at it and look for those signs in those areas where we may or may not have water sources and potential issues. So that's the first part, is I come out and do a free visual inspection. And if I identify something that needs attention, then of course that's when we get aggressive.
Okay. All right. And so having had a problem like that myself, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, but the experience that I had, for example, is I had a basement flood and they kind of take out a couple of feet of sheetrock in a particular situation. Obviously every situation is different. So you bring it out, you bring blowers in, you dry things out. And then also there's kind of a disinfectant kind of process that goes in, right?
Yes, there's multiple treatments that can be done. And what you're talking about, what happened at your place, Candace had some water intrusion come through a window, and then it disperses and goes, you know, the lowest, it goes with gravity, goes to the lowest point. But all of this material in a house is cellulose, and it acts like a sponge, and so it wicks that moisture up. And so what happened at Candace's house is we had to do flood And so you come up a couple feet and you usually go 18 to 24 inches past the last point of moisture or evidence of mold growth.
Right.
And then you dry that out, because ultimately what we want to do is make sure that the structural integrity is good.
Yeah.
And so the studs and all that, sheetrock and insulation is cheap.
Yeah.
So we don't skimp when it comes to that. We want to make sure that we go absolutely far enough so that we don't button it back up and still have another moisture problem.
And do it immediately before that mold has time to take hold.
Yep. And the water damage is, it's 24 to 48 hours and with water damage, and then microbial growth can occur.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's great information to kind of share with everybody again as we're going into that wet season right now. So let's let everybody know, where do you provide your services? We're in Idaho Falls. How far out do you typically go?
I cover the whole state. I mean, I cover over into Boise, into central Wyoming quite a bit, and even down to the Utah border. So we do all of that.
You are the guy.
Testing. So we can do it. We can do it all.
Okay. Now, one thing that I found out through our journey together is not only do you come in and test for mold and you can pull all the bad things out, you can treat for mold, but there's some other services that you do that folks may not realize. Can you share a little bit about those?
I do have some odor control products that are very specific to different odors. There's pet specific. There's smoke. Even marijuana. There are different treatments that can be done on a home, especially in the real estate community, that might have a funky smell that we can treat and get rid of.
Okay, that's helpful. Now, and also you do a post-treatment test, correct? So somebody's come in, excuse me, they've had mold treatment and they're getting ready to sell their home, something like that. Somebody wants a sense of security, knowing that's been properly taken care of. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so what that's called is clearance testing. So when we go in and do a project, basically we make it worse before we make it better. So we have equipment in there to help trap anything that we disturb through the demo and treatment process. And then the only way to know that is to let the house come back to its normal fungal ecology. So give it a couple days. And then we come back in and do what's called clearance testing.
Okay.
And that's really the only way to know, because the tiny little mold spores and microbes are so small that you don't even know you have a problem.
We're not going to see those.
Yeah. And so the only way to find that out is to do those air tests.
Okay. Perfect.
Tests. Yep.
So probably great to do, after you've had an event like we're talking about, right? And then also if that's been an event, and again, in selling your home, you have to do a disclosure. So, hey, I've had this event. It's been professionally remediated. Here's my receipts from all of that. But it could be another step, for example, if you had gone with a different provider that didn't offer clearance testing at the time, that you can call Mike, have Mold Pro come in, they'll do that test. So not only you as a seller having the confidence of knowing that you really have taken care of the problem, but also your potential buyers know that they're not walking into an unknown, right?
Right, yeah, and there are other companies that do mold remediation in town. And when I get called out to do the clearance testing, for other companies, it's called third-party clearance testing, and I do that all the time. So even if you had your water damage or mold issues remediated by a different company, and you want to have those results and that peace of mind, you can call me, and I'll come do that. I do it all the time.
And that way, there's no we've passed it because we did the work, and so you have an independent opinion of what's going on.
Yeah, that's why they call it third party. And unfortunately, someone somewhere along the line has done something shady like that, which is why it's important.
Okay, perfect. Well, lots of services that you can offer, but the number one tip is check everything and make sure you don't have to call Mold Pro to remediate that problem if we just take a couple peeks here and there.
Identify awareness and identification and stopping the water source is critical.
All right.
Once we identify it, if we can do that within 24 to 48 hours, we're probably going to be okay.
All right, so jump on it, everybody. Now, again, Mold Pro, I'll make sure that I link all of their information down below. So located here in Idaho Falls, but servicing the entire state of Idaho. So suspect you have a problem, call Mold Pro. Thanks for joining us, Mike.
Yeah, thank you.